This is what happens when you strap a jet engine to a tank. Imagine a mutant who is already indestructible, armed with the sharpest metal in the universe, and then give him the power to move faster than light. We aren't just talking about a faster Wolverine, but a physics-breaking anomaly that could slice through a sentinel before the robot's sensors even registered movement. Today, we are answering the terrifying question of what would happen if Wolverine had the Speed Force. From the caloric nightmare of his metabolism to the sheer devastation of an adamantium skeleton moving at Mach 10, the results are far more destructive than you might think. We need to set the stage for how this madness begins. In most timelines, Logan stays far away from cosmic accidents, but for this scenario, we place him directly in the path of a Speed Force storm. Maybe he is tracking a target in Central City, or perhaps the Speed Force simply chooses a new, rougher avatar. When that lightning bolt hits his adamantium-laced skeleton, the reaction isn't smooth. Unlike Barry Allen, whose body adapted gracefully, Logan's heavy metal frame resists. The initial bonding process would likely be agonizing as the kinetic energy tries to push him forward against the 300 pounds of dense metal anchoring him down. His healing factor would be working overtime just to keep his cells from scattering across the timeline. This is where the physics gets scary. Most speedsters, like the Flash or Quicksilver, are built like runners, lean and light. Wolverine is built like a brick wall and weighs nearly 300 pounds thanks to his metal skeleton. If you accelerate that much mass to the speed of light, the kinetic energy output is exponential. When Flash runs, he glides, but when a Speed Force Wolverine runs, he is essentially a cannonball that never stops. Every footstep would crack the pavement, not just from speed, but from the sheer density of his impact. He wouldn't just run through a door. The air pressure wave of his arrival would blow the entire building apart before he even touched the handle. Speedsters are protected by a Speed Force aura that shields them from friction. But what if that aura wasn't perfect? Wolverine's healing factor invites a gruesome possibility. If the aura flickered, the air friction at Mach 5 would incinerate his skin instantly. For a normal human, that means death. But for Logan, it means a constant cycle of burning and regenerating while he runs. He would essentially become a comet of burning flesh and hot metal, trailing smoke across the continent. It sounds horrific, but pain is an old friend to Logan. He might actually use this to turn himself into a literal fireball to increase the damage of his attacks. The Flash already has to eat thousands of calories a day to survive. Now, add Wolverine's mutant healing factor, which also burns massive amounts of energy to repair tissue. Combining these two metabolic furnaces creates a biological disaster. A Speed Force Wolverine would burn through his body's fat reserves in machines and exist in a constant state of starvation. If he stopped eating for even an hour, his body might start cannibalizing its own muscle tissue just to keep the engine running. We are talking about a hero who would need to consume high-density energy bars by the crate to avoid passing out mid-sprint. The hunger would be more dangerous to him than any villain. Wolverine is dangerous because he can take a hit, but he has always been limited by how fast he can close the gap. Not anymore. With super speed, the distance between him and a Sentinel vanishes instantly. He could decapitate 100 robots in the time it takes to blink. The claws themselves make this even deadlier, because adamantium is virtually unbreakable. When you thrust an unbreakable blade at supersonic speeds, it doesn't just cut, it atomizes. He could slice through tank armor as if it were wet paper, not because of strength, but because of the sheer velocity of the edge. There is no material on Earth that could block a Mach 50 adamantium slash. We actually pulled this idea from a comment by RaptorClaw99 on our last video, So a huge thanks to everyone dropping ideas. If you have another crazy what-if scenario you want to see, leave it below. We read everything. And if you're enjoying the madness, hit that subscribe button to catch the next one. Wolverine's senses are already dialed up to 11. He can smell a target from miles away and hear a heartbeat across a room. Now, imagine processing that information at light speed. It would be overwhelming. He wouldn't just smell a drop of blood, he would track the scent molecules moving through the air in freeze frame. The world would look like a statue to him, but his animal senses would still be active. This creates a predator who can analyze a battlefield with the precision of a supercomputer. He would know exactly where every enemy is, what weapons they are holding, and how scared they are before the fight even starts. Wolverine's most dangerous state is the Berserker Rage, when he loses control and becomes a killing machine. For a normal Logan, this is scary, but for a Speedster Logan, it is an extinction-level event. If he loses his mind to the Rage while tapped into the Speed Force, he becomes a blender the size of a city. He wouldn't distinguish between friend or foe. He would just be a blur of claws, shredding everything in a 10-mile radius. The Speed Force usually requires focus to control, so a mindless rage might actually cause him to phase out of reality or create erratic energy explosions, endangering the entire timeline just because he got angry? Flash has a move called the Infinite Mass Punch, where he accelerates to near light speed to hit with the force of a dwarf star. Now, put 3 claws on the end of that punch. A infinite mass claw strike wouldn't just punch a hole in a villain, it would likely split the tectonic plate beneath them. The pressure focused on the tips of his adamantium blades at that speed is incalculable. If he struck the ground, he could theoretically trigger earthquakes or slice an entire mountain in half with a single swipe. This moves him from a street-level hero to someone who could challenge Thanos or Darkseid single-handedly. Speedsters can vibrate their molecules to phase through solid objects. Wolverine could take this a step further. By vibrating his adamantium claws at the right frequency, he could phase cut through anything, including force fields or magical barriers that usually stop him. Imagine him vibrating his hand through Iron Man's armor and then solidifying his claws inside the suit. There is no defense against this. Even characters like the Hulk or Colossus, who rely on tough skin, would be vulnerable. He could bypass their durability entirely and attack their internal organs without even scratching the surface. It is a gruesome technique that is perfectly suited for a weapon like Logan. Logan is already over 200 years old. He is tired, and he has seen everyone he loves die. The Speed Force would make this tragedy infinitely worse. Speedsters perceive time faster than anyone else, so a boring afternoon feels like a year to them. For Logan, his already long life would stretch into an eternity of perception. He would have eons to dwell on his past mistakes, while trapped in a world that moves in slow motion. The mental weight of living thousands of perceived years, every single decade, a way that Weapon X never could. He might become desperate just to find a way to slow down. We verified a critical fact for this video. Wolverine can drown. It is one of the few ways to actually kill him. Speedsters usually run across water easily, but Logan is heavy. His 300-pound frame means he needs to move significantly faster than the Flash just to stay on the surface. If he trips or slows down over the Pacific Ocean, he sinks like a stone. Unlike a normal human, he can't just swim back up easily, with all that metal weighing him down. He would be trapped at the bottom of the ocean, constantly drowning and reviving, unable to generate the traction needed to run out. The ocean becomes his biggest threat. The Speed Force accelerates all biological processes. For a normal human, this can cause rapid aging, but for Wolverine, it supercharges his healing. His regeneration usually takes seconds, or minutes for major wounds. With the Speed Force, he would heal in microseconds. You could blow him apart, and the mist of blood would pull itself back together before it hit the ground. He would be, essentially, instant. This removes the one window of opportunity enemies usually have, the time it takes for him to recover. He becomes a creature that cannot be stopped, cannot be slowed, and instantly erases any damage you inflict. Every speedster eventually messes with time. Barry Allen saved his mom, so Logan would inevitably try to save Jean Grey. But Wolverine isn't a scientist, he is a soldier. His attempts to fix the timeline would likely be messy and violent. He might run back to 1980 to stop the Dark Phoenix saga, but his butterfly effect would be catastrophic. Imagine a timeline where he brutally murders villains before they are even born. He would create a flashpoint paradox that is far bloodier and darker than anything DC has produced. The Time Variance Authority would definitely have him at the top of their hit list. Believe it or not, we almost saw this in the 90s. In the Amalgam Comics universe, there was a character called Darkclaw, a mix of Batman and Wolverine, and another called Speed Demon, a mix of Flash and Ghost Rider. But fans have always speculated about a speed weapon character. In 2026, with the multiverse crossovers ramping up again, this concept is more relevant than ever. There are fan theories that a variant like this already exists in the Omniverse, perhaps hunting down rogue Kangs. It is the kind of character that fits perfectly into the current Secret Wars-style era of comics. The scariest thing about a Speed Force Wolverine isn't the claws or the healing. It is the fact that you can't run. Wolverine is known for tracking you to the ends of the earth. If he has super speed, the ends of the earth is a trip that takes him less than a second. There is no hiding. There is no escape. He is the ultimate persistence predator. He could search every house in a country in 5 minutes. If you are on his list, you are already caught. This combination creates the most efficient hunter in comic book history, turning the best there is at what he does into a literal fact of nature. Giving Wolverine the Speed Force creates a being that breaks the logic of both universes. He becomes an unstoppable force of nature that blends raw durability with infinite kinetic energy. He would be too fast to kill, too tough to hurt, and too angry to stop. It is probably a good thing this remains a what-if scenario, because the Marvel Universe wouldn't survive him for long. If you want us to break down another impossible combination, like Hulk with a Green Lantern ring, hit that subscribe button and let us know. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.